Assalamu alaikum guys. In this video we'll learn what's new on Laravel 10.14 and our reference in this video is Laravel news. So let's start. First of all, here we will need to upgrade our current Laravel version, because if we go here to composer.json file, here's our version is 10.13 and I will change it to 14, then run composer update command here, right? And now if I run PHP artisan about here, I will see my Laravel version is 10.14. So now we can start discovering the new features in this version. So first of all, here a new validation rule added called can, and it can be used in the rules here for policies. So here, for example, I have created a new policy here called customer policy, right? And for example, for this create, I will make it return true for now here, and I will register it in auth service provider here under providers in app folder, right here, and I will say a customer policy for customer model here class. And now let's learn how to use this rule can here. So if I back here to my controller, I have this store method and I will make it return success as a string here. And if I back here and I will say, for example, for name field as array for our rule class here, validation, now we can use can method as we can see it. So the first thing here is the method name inside policy. So I want to test a can method or create method here. So I will use this create method name as we can see inside our request as a string, by the way, and then the class name or the model name, customer class, right? But first of all, because it's a policy, it must has an authenticated user. So I will use it here temporarily. Auth login using ID. I will login as user ID number 1 as shown here in my database to make it work temporarily. And if I go and try it here in my Thunder client, right? So I will say just for name test can send request and it's success. What if we go here and this is this validation rule to false, back and check again? Now, as we can see, here is the new error message. Also, the name field contains an authorized value, right? So here is the first feature. Also, by the way, if we use it as a parameter, for example, we can the same thing like authorized method. So we provide the ability name like we do and the class name and also the ID or the model of the class that we can check authorization for. The next thing here is about get inspect. I will skip it for now because actually it didn't work when I tried it before the video. And the new other feature here is setting global middleware for HTTP client class inside service providers. So imagine if we consume a third-party service or API and we want to, for example, setting a header every time. So instead of setting it every time inside HTTP client using with header method, we can register it for once inside our service provider or any service provider. So I will try it quickly here inside our app service provider. I will close all of them here currently and I will go to app service provider here, and in our boot method I will say HTTP, right, imported here automatically, and I will say I think it's called set global middleware. Yes, global request middleware here method, and is our function closure request here, and I will say return request with header here, and I will say for maybe X token, right, its value is 1 2 3 4 5, right? And if we now try to use this HTTP request here or this client inside our a controller. Here I will say die and dump response JSON, right? And also, by the way, this link here returns whole time zone. So my local server here, and automatically logs the X token value. So if I go back here again to my Discover 10 project, this one here, it logs Discover 10, it logs the value of X token header value, right? So if I remove it and try to consume it from browser again, refresh, because it's null, it's empty. But if we go now to consume it from our this API consumer, our Learn 10 project here, let's see what will happen. Let's open our Thunder client here, and I will send a request from here. The method is get. I changed it, by the way, and now it works. If I go back to other project log, as we can see, the X token now receives the value and it works correctly. The same thing also for response, right? So if we go back here and back to our app service provider, they added a new method called HTTP here, a global response or global. Let's check here. Yes, global request middleware, and the same thing, I think, global request middleware, and again function response here, and I will say again through the same token, maybe for any purpose it will be test in response header. Let's check its value. It works here, but if we go again here and check die and dump response headers, send it again, as we can see, X token this value, right? The next feature here is adding with header method for binding requests. So here in the old version it was only with headers and the sending array, but now for, as mentioned here, singular header, we can use with header directly here. So if we take it, copy paste, and I will remove it also here from our service provider, and I will add it to our controller. So I will remove it. Now if we try with this secret value, back and send request again, works. And I will set actually the get method here instead of base URL. I will remove it again here. Now let's try again and open, and as you can see here, the new value is secret, right? So here is the new method called with header for setting one header, right? Or single header instead of using array, right? The next and last feature here is with query parameters. So if we want to send something like this, for example, where ID equal to 1 and so on, here we would using it inside query index inside with options method in old version, but now we can use it here as a query parameter method using with query parameter directly here. So I will back and try it again in our Learn app, and I will say here with query parameters, and now we can add anything. For example, ID 1, maybe category is web, maybe, and now let's set it here, and let's dump or logging the these values here. So I will back, and I want to say also log request query ID is or ID directly, and also I want to log the category. Now let's try again in our Learn app, send request, back to our log. As you can see, token is secret, ID is 1, and the category is web. Here's quickly what's new in Laravel 10.14. If you found it useful, support me by clicking on like, share, and subscribe. See you in next videos.